Shares of Tesla down a little, near 4.5% this morning. What are you anticipating this week?
Sure. Thanks for having me. There's really two areas I think investors are going to be focused on. They're looking for clues that Tesla's auto sales will rebound from a very weak Q1 in which their sales deliveries were down 13% year over year. So, what will the updated 2025 sales guidance look like? Last quarter, they lowered their guidance pretty significantly, now expecting only growth, slight growth this year. So I think analysts have really taken down their estimates. We're now forecasting a 10% drop in sales volume this year. But that guidance is really going to be, I think, the number one thing that analysts are looking for. And then secondly, any information regarding the launch of their unsupervised full self-driving in the Austin market coming up in June, and as well as any update regarding their future product pipeline. So those are really, I think, the key things.
Garrett, comparing the PE ratio for Tesla to the rest of the automobile industry right now, and I know you kind of look across the entire automotive landscape and really assess what is different about all of these players right now, but Tesla is, what, 300x some of the other PEs that we're seeing within the industry and within the sector. What is it that investors are going to be expecting going into this call to make that PE ratio justified?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's always traded at a massive premium to the rest of the industry, though, and we think that's justified. So, Tesla is, of course, not only an auto company, but they're involved in energy storage, a business which is growing a lot faster than the auto business and has higher margins, robotics, AI, as well as we think the real value here is in the autonomous driving, the full self-driving software that they've continued to improve. And we'll really get a chance to showcase in June. I think everyone will be watching that. But I think Tesla has been really good the last few earnings releases at diverting investor attention away from the various near-term challenges that they face. And there's no doubt they're facing some challenges. EV market share losses across their three major markets of the U.S., Europe, and China, slowing EV demand growth, both domestically and internationally, ongoing pricing pressures, and disappointing Cybertruck volumes so far. So, and really diverting attention, keeping investors focused on longer-term catalysts. And so they've done a really good job at that. And so I think as much attention will be focused on the conference call as there is on the earnings release.
Garrett, if I can nerd out with you for a hot second here, as we're thinking about full self-driving and some of the technological specs that go into that, they've faced criticism in the past from some customers, some investors, and technologists alike, who were trying to figure out, do they need to add more of a tandem approach and layer in LiDAR as well as some of the radar as backup versus just going off a camera-based system?
We don't think so, and we've been very impressed with the improvements that they've made, over the last few years, as we saw through different iterations of version 12, and now we're on version 13, and really ever since incorporating NVIDIA's GPUs and AI into the development, they've made the progress has really accelerated in terms of the quality of the product and capabilities. So. Elon Musk has famously called LiDAR a fool's errand, and we don't see any scenario in which they would go back and say, you know what, we were wrong. We need to have LiDAR in addition to cameras and radar on the vehicle. So we don't see that happening. And the significance of the Austin rollout, of course, is that Waymo is already operating there with their LiDAR vehicles. So Tesla will be compared to the capabilities of Waymo's product.
I'm curious, too, about what you anticipate hearing on the call about the executive presence of Elon Musk. Dan Ives over at Wedbush saying this morning that Elon should step back from his work at Doge and focus on Tesla as the company faces a, quote, code red moment before reporting first quarter earnings. To what extent do you anticipate hearing more about how Elon Musk plans to spend his time amid the company's weak moment?
Yeah, we don't think there will be any update regarding that on the call, but we do think if he were to step down from his Doge responsibilities, that would be a big positive for the stock. In fact, a few weeks ago, we saw when a rumor came out that that was coming, the stock very quickly jumped more than 10% intraday. So, in fact, it was the same day that Tesla reported their Q1 production and deliveries. So, I think, that would be a big catalyst for the stock, and we actually don't think that's too far off. So, um, a lot of reports that that could be coming, by late May. So, um, clearly, there's a lot more friction between Musk and certain members of the administration, and we wouldn't be surprised. That's another reason why we would buy the stock here. Following this big sell-off, the stock has essentially done a round trip from where it was just prior to the election in mid-October. When it ran up to almost $480, it's back down to where it was just prior to the election. So, and we actually like the risk reward profile here.
Garrett, I only got about 15 seconds here, but do you believe that there's been an erosion of some of the customer sentiment because of Musk's annexation to President Trump and the White House, not just here in the U.S., but internationally?
Yeah, no question there's been some damage to the brand. And I think, that was really reflected in the weak Q1 sales numbers. The production lines were down across all their factories in Q1, so that had an impact. But I think that's what investors are really looking for, evidence of a rebound starting in Q2. The Donald Trump's purchase of a Tesla vehicle really had a positive impact on their sales in the near term when that happened last month. So, to what extent that carried through and is going to show up in their Q2 sales number remains to be seen.
Garrett, we're going to be watching the report. We know you will be too. Thanks so much.
Thank you.